The Wels catfish is an Eastern European catfish that likely lended its name to the whales that we see in the oceans. The cetaceans were probably named after this fish. Let's talk about that and more Wels catfish fun facts while I sketch this little fishy. So let's just turn the page and get started. Good morning. It is 5:30 in the morning. Fishy. It's 5:30 in the morning on a Sunday morning. It's apple fritter day. After pie day yesterday, I don't know if I can still have apple fritters. I blew all of my week's calories on pie a la mode yesterday, but I think that is not going to stop me from having an apple fritter today. But today, on Sundays, at 5:30 in the morning, good morning, Rick. Good morning, Pamela. I like to do a little thing where I pull a toy from the toy box, a random object from the Random Object Randomogrifier, if you will, and I like to draw it. And today's random object is a Wels catfish. Now, that is a very old name. Wels, where is that going? Wels Catfish. And it's spelled W-E-L-S, Wels. It's a very, very old name, and it's one of the oldest fishes that we have fished on purpose. And I mean, we have records going back, and I say records, I mean archaeological records. I don't just mean people wrote stuff down. We have archaeological evidence of people eating this fish in Judea 10,000 years ago. When the Bible talks about, when the Bible story talks about, who was it? I'm drawing a blank. Got swallowed up by the whale. Jonah got swallowed up by the whale. This is probably what they were talking about, because you're talking about a time period before we were seafarers. You're talking about a time period before we had been out on the ocean open. What, Mom? Are you talking to me?
No.
Okay. I hear noises coming from you, and it sounds like you're talking. My mom's on my phone up here. She runs the chat. She lets me know if anything exciting is happening in the chat, because for some reason I can't read the chat and talk and create art at the same time. It's a weakness I'm trying to overcome. But when you're talking about stories like Jonah, you're talking about a time period before we were seafaring people, before we had gone into the open ocean. We've only been on the open ocean for a little more than 800 years, and we only just started going into the open ocean 800 years ago. So if you think about all of the things they talk about, whales and stuff in the Bible, or leviathans or anything like that, they're not talking about open ocean animals. They hadn't been in the open ocean. All they had ever been out on is the Mediterranean and the lakes. And this fish got its name from an ancient German dialect. The name that we call it today, Wels, got its name from an ancient German dialect. Hey, Joe.
Just as these fish get huge.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. These things never stop growing. A lot of fish have a cap to how big they'll get. These things grow their entire lives, and they've been known to live up to 80 years. And so they found these things. The biggest one on record is 9 foot 4 inches, which is roughly 14 bananas long, and it was 274 pounds. I think it was 274 pounds. That's a big fish. These things are known to swallow 3 foot long salmon whole.
Ivy says catfish. Nom, nom, nom.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I love catfish.
Are they bottom feeders?
Yeah, all catfish are bottom feeders.
It's interesting that they were eaten early in the Judea times.
You know, and I brought that up in my research last night. That was one of the things I looked at was how did they reconcile that with the Abrahamic rules of not, with the Mosaic laws of not eating, because these are scaleless bottom feeders, and I was curious about how they would reconcile that against the Abrahamic rules of not eating catfish. But they were eating in Judea. They were eating these before there was an Abrahamic religion, before the Abrahamic religion had taken over. And an Abrahamic, not to talk down to you or anything, but an Abrahamic religion is anything that's descended from Abraham. So that's Judaism, that's Christianity, that's Islam. That all of those religions come from descendants of Abraham. And Abraham, you know, that's where the laws come from. Moses wrote the laws. The Levites wrote the laws. Good morning, Ivy.
Joe.
I said Joe. Didn't I say good morning to Joe already?
I don't know. Say it again.
Okay, good morning, Joe. Good morning, Joe. Yeah, that was one of the things, and I swore I wasn't going to talk about it because I always think it's funny, but I always think it's funny when the Catholic Church has catfish fries on Fridays during Lent, because it's specifically one of the animals that you're not supposed to eat. And there's always that debate about whether, in Acts, whether or not Peter was told that we could eat whatever we wanted. You know, there's always a debate there, and I don't want to get into it today, but I just think it's an interesting discussion about how people end up doing what they want to do, regardless of what their religion tells them they're supposed to do. There's some things people are adamantly opposed to as far as religion goes, but then there's other things that their religion tells them they're not supposed to do, and they're like, nope, not doing that. We're going to find some way to manipulate the words to make the words mean something else.
Ivy said it's fun to cook a catfish on a kayak.
It's fun to do what?
Cook a catfish on a kayak.
Yeah, okay, and Pamela, you're talking about the Ten Commandments. He brought the Ten Commandments from there. I'm talking about Mosaic law, about the fish and stuff. The Mosaic law, that's a whole different basket of laws than the Ten Commandments. He brought the Ten Commandments down from the mountains. But again, I don't want to debate. I don't want to debate laws. What I find interesting is not the religion. It's the profession of it's the saying of the things, and then changing them to meet the church in specific. Because I mean, almost all of the Abrahamic religions still eat these things. And the Catholic Church said you could have capybaras during Lent and call them fish, just to change the rules. And I just think that's interesting. I'm not criticizing, and I'm not saying it's right or wrong. I just think it's interesting that they do that. I think they said otters are fish also. But again, I'm not criticizing, and I'm certainly not trying to tell people how to live their lives. I just find it a curiosity. But I didn't want to get into. I don't want to get too deep into the sticks on that. As much as I want to talk about that, we have been eating this fish. We have been eating this fish for thousands of years. We have archaeological evidence of eating this particular fish for thousands of years, tens of thousands of years. This fish has been around. This particular fish has been around for about 50 million years. There's paleontological evidence of it having been around for 50 million years. And
says almost with bottom feeding creatures.
And this is a bottom feeding fish. It's a catfish. But it does. Now, this catfish in particular does some neat things, though. This catfish will beach itself to eat a pigeon.
Oh, good Lord.
This catfish. Now, it doesn't do it in its native habitat. This fish is native to Eastern Europe. So think Poland and that area. And during the Pliocene, when there were lots of rainy days during the Pliocene, it was able to disperse into Northern Europe also, but it needs warmer waters, so it's not as strong in Northern Europe. And as a matter of fact, it's extinct in Denmark, and it's not doing too hot in Sweden. But those populations are isolated from the Eastern European populations because the waters have receded and there's no path across there anymore, and so they're not doing so well up there. They're dying off in those areas because it's too cold, and they can't reproduce properly. It takes them every couple of years to reproduce to produce an adult in the warmer climates, but it takes them like 20 years to produce an adult in the colder climates. But we do have the perfect fish to fry. This is a good. I agree. Catfish is tasty. What am I missing in the chat? What's Ivy talking about?
She said it's fun to cook a catfish when kayaking.
Oh yeah.
And I said that picture my mate made me laugh. And she said then she caught a carp, and it was even more a wild ride. She said words you shouldn't have.
That sounds like a good time. And etymological evidence that the Wels name came first for this fish instead of the cetaceans is a 15th century book that refers to the whales pulling up the river, and they're talking about a boat where they hooked onto one, and the whales pulled the boat all the way up the river. So I mean if they're catching fish that can pull them up the river, I can only imagine what that would be like on your kayak. When they hunt, their eyes don't work too well because they're murky water animals. And when they hunt, they're hunting almost entirely on the pressure of the water around them. And they have long whiskers that you can't really see in the model here. They have long whiskers that are very sensitive to vibration, and they will sit off of the edge of the water. The western groups of these things will sit off the edge of the water, and they will wait. And when they feel the vibrations of the pigeons at the beach line, is when they'll lunge out of the water and up onto the beach, grab a pigeon, and then waller themselves back under the water like a whale does, like you see the killer whales do in the SeaWorld shows.
Thomas says, have you seen the over 100 catfish at the Jinx Aquarium?
I have not, but I know like Chickasha is rumored to have a catfish the size of a Volkswagen in it. I think that's crazy. I haven't seen the one in Jinx. I need to go see Jinx again. I haven't been to Jinx in a long time. Pamela, have you been to the one? There's a new one in down by Lawton. What's the name of that place with the hamburgers that we love so much? I can't remember the name of that town. Just outside Lawton, by Lake Watonka. Anyway, there's a new There's a new aquarium there, and I really want to go see that. I haven't seen that at all. I really want to go there and see that one. I love I love going to aquariums. Matter of fact, when I used to travel with my day job, one of the things I would always look for would be the aquariums to go see the state aquariums if I could get over to the state aquarium. Love, love, love doing that. This is my favorite part of the whole process. If I've probably never told you guys how much I love this part of the process. Where
The whiskers on this one.
the whiskers aren't on the toy, so I struggle with that because it is hard for me to not put the whiskers that I know are there. But it also the challenge is to the purpose is to learn to draw what I see.
Rick asked if it was Altus.
No, no,
Too big.
Altus is a long ways away from Lawton.
I can't think of where you're talking about.
Dad would know right off the top of his head where the hamburgers are. Just before you get to the Wichita Mountains.
Mears?
Mears. Thank you. Did he tell you, or did you remember?
No, I remember.
Good for
When
you.
you said Wichita Mountains, I remember.
Good for you. I couldn't think of that for anything.
Ivy said you brought it up vaguely 11 years ago that this was your favorite part. Did you sunk in until just now?
Oh, gotcha. Yeah, yeah. I'm just glad I wasn't able to. Yeah, Dad said Mears or Medicine Park. Dad said it in the chat. But yeah, there's a new aquarium there. And yes, I say new, it's probably 10 years old now. Let me dry this real quick and we'll come back with some color. Ivy's in the chat. She says she doesn't want a 100-pound fish on the end of her line while she's in the kayak. This is an almost 300-pound fish.
Pamela says if you squint, you can probably see the whiskers. I think she wants whiskers on.
I think she wants whiskers. I put a little essence of whiskers right there, but they're not sticking out like they would on an actual fish. But yeah, these things never stop growing. They live up to 80 years. They use these little pectoral fins the little pectoral fins are sharp, and they use these little pectoral fins to stun fish, to disorient fish, I should say. They swirl them around in circles and create a vortex, and it disorients the fish so that the fish don't know which way they're swimming to get away. They get turned around, and then they swallow the fish whole. And like I said, they've been known to swallow. They've been known to swallow salmon whole. 3 foot long salmon whole. You know, these are the kinds of fish people talk about when they say, "Yeah, that thing would eat a small child." Yes, this thing would eat a small child. If a small child was prancing along the side of the beach, this thing might jump up out of the water and eat it. And that would be a story to tell.
Your dad said that Fred consistently caught 40 to 80 pound catfish out of the Washington River.
I don't doubt that at all. I don't doubt that at all.
That's almost bigger than Fred.
Fred wasn't that big of a guy.
No, he was not. He says that's way too many bananas.
Wait, 14 bananas. 14 bananas long. So sports anglers, one guy gathered up a couple of hundred of these things, a couple of thousand of these things, and decided they needed them in West Europe also, because they were fun to catch. And so the sports anglers, this guy in particular, gathers them up and takes them and releases them into a river in France. No. Where did he release them? It wasn't France. Was it Italy? I should have wrote that down. But he releases them. He releases them in a single river, and now they are all over. Now they are all over Europe, and they're wreaking havoc with the native populations. They're killing out. They're out competing the native populations, and they're doing very well in Italy and Europe, in Italy and France and Spain. The places where they're not native to, they're doing very well there. But they're struggling in Denmark. They're gone in Denmark. They're struggling in Sweden, and they're struggling. But their native climate in like Poland, they're doing okay there. They're managed well there. But in the areas where they were imported, they're doing fantastic, and they've been there long enough. Nobody really complains about them because they have an economic value to the area, even though they displaced the native animals. There's the sports fishermen are quite the industry for the area, and they fish them commercially because so many people like catfish.
She wonders if you make fish patties out of a catfish that ate a salmon, would they classify a salmon species? We digress now.
What? How would you? We have the turducken. When you put a duck inside a turkey, or a turkey inside of a duck, or we have the turducken. How would you do that with a catfish with a salmon inside it? I'll tell you, one of the places they're doing extremely well, Chernobyl. They have an exclusion zone outside Chernobyl. In 1986, that there was a nuclear meltdown at the nuclear plant in Russia, in Chernobyl. Melted down and radiated the entire valley, and all of the people had to leave the area. But there was a lake there with a population of Wels catfish in it, and that population is doing fantastic. They're represented by hundreds of individuals. No competition. What's that? Oh, he's trying to find a way to catch them, like salmon. He's trying to find a way to merge the words.
They make a fish version of the turkey. According to Joe, it's ocean trout, cod, and tuna. He missed all this other conversation because his system crashed.
Oh no.
I'm not going to talk about that much.
Yeah, we're not inviting the gremlins.
No.
All right. Let me dry this real quick. and then we can ink it. Yeah, let me dry this real quick, and then we'll be able to ink it. Okay, so Joe says they have a cod and trout, ocean trout, cod, and tuna wrap. What do they call it, Joe? Then they wrap it in bacon and smoke it, but it's layered, not stuffed. Then they wrap it in bacon and smoke it. Everything's better in bacon. Ivy says you can have it. She's not a tuna eater. I don't know. Tuna out of the can gets old really fast, but tuna steaks are nice. Maybe when this goes live, when it has some time to air on the channel, somebody can come in and give us more insight about the Abrahamic religions and their justification for eating this particular animal. But like I said, I don't think in Judea they weren't. I don't think they were eating them post. I don't think it was after Moses, because I don't think that I don't think they were doing it after Moses. I think that was all pre-Moses. What I didn't research was if they had any relatives in the United States. If they had any relatives in the Americas at all. Because like I said, this fish is an Eastern European fish. It spread to Western Europe during modern times because some sports fishermen carried them over there. But they weren't in Western Europe because there's no waterway that crosses over to Western Europe across the mountains. But during the Pliocene, things managed to spread all around the world, and so 50 million years ago, catfish themselves are a 270 million year old class of fish, and then this deviated from those fish about 50 million years ago, between 70 and 50 million years ago. My Oppo was a powerhouse mechanic for a corps of engineers. When they used to come to do the bottom inspections of the dam, he would laugh at the rumors people would put out about Volkswagen-sized catfish, and he says, which was just not true. I don't know, Joe. Have you seen what? There's a show where they go out and catch them monster-sized fish. What is today? The 15th. There's a show where they go out and catch them monster-sized fish. You're probably right. There's probably not a catfish-sized fish in the Chickasha Lake, but they've talked about it for years. That's one of those stories that persists. I saw a fish in that lake. He was this big. No, he was this big. No, he was this big. He'd swallow you whole. Jonah would have built a home in there and never even bothered moving out. River monsters. That might be it, Joe. Jonah just had a whole home inside that fish. All right, so here's my version compared to the photograph. Let's see if we can see it from my perspective, see what it looks like from my perspective. My perspective is, that photograph's pretty close to my perspective this time.
Pretty close.
Pretty close. That photograph is pretty close to my perspective. Usually my perspective is quite a bit different than the photograph. But I think I took the photograph from my perspective this time. So there's the fish from my perspective. So that's what I did today. Thank you, Abby. That's what I did today. Tomorrow, what do we have tomorrow? We are rapidly running out of eggs. I had to go buy more tubes. We have 2 more weeks. We have 16 more days before the end of the first year, and I went and bought more tubes last night. Just can't help myself. Bought more tubes last night, and I was looking through the Miniatura websites, looking at stuff for like doll houses and stuff, trying to find miniatures to fill the randomogrifier up with. Let's see. We have tomorrow. Oh, okay. Okay. It's a juniper tree. It's a juniper tree. Is it a Dutch word? Where's Claudia when we need her? I think it's a Dutch word. Juniper is what they call the juniper tree is what they call the juniper tree in those areas. And the word juniper came to be what they call the alcohol derived from the berries of this tree, and they're not berries because it's not a flowering plant, but they call them juniper berries. And the juniper alcohol made from that is what we refer to as gin. So the word gin is a shortened version of the juniper berries, which is what they call the juniper tree in Dutch. We'll talk about that and more fun juniper facts tomorrow while we sketch this little tree, and it seems to be a bit warped. I hope it stands up tomorrow. We'll do all that tomorrow while we talk about this tree at 5:30 a.m. Texas time. So you may want to set your notification bell so you don't miss that. But guys, yeah, Jennifer, that's right. But guys, thank you so much for joining me. I do appreciate it. I look forward to this every day when I get to art with my besties. I truly do. Just run down the stairs so that I can be here with you guys. And it holds me accountable to my art practice, and is often the only art I get to do, aside from Fridays when I art with Ivy during her show on my lunch breaks. But guys, thank you so much for joining me. Joe, Pamela, Rick, Ivy. Who did I miss? Did I miss anybody? I don't remember seeing anybody else. I'm sorry if I miss you. You have to remember I have the memory of the goldfish. Have a fantastic day. It is apple fritter day. If you can go out and get you an apple fritter, do so, because I think it's good for your soul. Be sure and tune in tomorrow, same Artistic Biker time, same Artistic Biker channel. And we dance. We dance until somebody says, Joe says he's off to get donuts. Dance until somebody says they see me dancing, because that is how I know that the lag is caught up to the stream and I won't get cut off mid-sentence. Gives you a chance to click the clicky thingies this way if you're on the horizontal, or this way if you're on the vertical. A chance for everybody to say hello and goodbye. But most important,